Okay. So if I go for /29 total, how many IPs we are getting? What is the formula here?
29. Okay.
Yeah, what is the
To
formula?
the power of
32 minus
32 minus 29.
29. That is
It's
equal to 2 cube.
2 cube. 8.
2 cube is gives us 8 IP addresses.
8.
But in that 8 also, how many are used?
Only
5.
5. 5 is used.
5 if we go, only 3 we can use.
3 we can use.
That's also not a best practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the subnet mask we no need to use. So now here the formula you hope you understand, right? The number of hosts are 2 to the power of 32 minus that prefix length. Okay, and here in the AWS wise not 2, from the AWS wise we need to calculate -5 because 5 IPs have been reserved. Okay, so in this use case to /26 if I give 64 minus 5 I'm getting 59. Okay, so then here like the basic formula for the CIDR is like the total number of IPs is equal to 2 to the power of 32 minus that is CIDR notation. What is the notation we have is after slash you may have like a 16, 8, 20 like this. Okay, so then here we are getting 256 IPs per /24. In that also, in AWS, normally we are going to reserve 5 IP addresses. Okay, so normal in the network only 2, but AWS why those reserved 5 IP addresses also we'll discuss. Okay, so now here, like a /8. Okay, so this subnet mask is little challenging if I use 23, 24, these kind of things. Okay, so then like that is the reason we are going to keep different kind of like subnets we can keep, and we are in the industry. What is the thing we are using is /16 mostly we are using for VPC, and we are splitting that into either 20 or 21. Sorry, 20 or 24. Okay. Says here /16 is bigger or /24 is bigger?
/16 is bigger.
Because it will give more number of IPs.
That's right.
Okay. And for AWS /30 is not enough. And only for single IP we are using 32.
32.
Okay. So now mostly we are using for the VPC /16 and subnets /24. But the 24 will give only the maximum possibilities of 251 IPs. That is the reason if you use 20, then 4096 IPs. 4096 IPs we are getting. Even in these 5 IPs have been reserved also, we are getting 4091 IPs we are getting. 4091 IPs we are getting here. Yeah.
/24 /16, every IP sender 5 IPs are reserved in AWS.
Yes. One subnet, 5 IPs are reserved.
Okay.
Okay. So now, what is the meaning of that VPC and subnet we'll discuss. Now, the VPC is a superset kind of thing. The subnet is a subset of that. Means from the VPC itself, we need to give the ranges, not from the outside of that. Means whenever I'm dividing the subnet from my VPC CIDR range only, I need to give. I can't give from the outside of my VPC. Okay, I'll try to tell one example, try to understand. I given my VPC is 10.10.0.0/16. When I'm using /16, right, here I shouldn't use any other number. Okay, so what I need to keep there in the next 16 Digits what I need to keep? 0.0 itself. What this is telling is first 10.10 is fixed. First the 10.10 is fixed. We shouldn't keep here 1.0 or 0.0 here in the /16. In the same way, when I am using 0.0.0.0/0 also, as I am using 0, I shouldn't keep anything. I just need to keep all are
Unreserved.
yeah, unreserved. That 0 is unreserved kind of thing as of now when we are representing. Okay, the 10.10 is it's already fixed. So now here, what is the problem with this 10.10.1.0/16? What is the problem? What is the
Process
problem
16
with that? Yeah, that's one is not supported here. We should mandatory need to give 0 itself. Okay, I hope you got it right. Okay, so now try to tell me, is it supported?
No, sir.
No, it's supported. 10.0 is fixed, that's it. 10.0 is fixed. The next 0.0 is allowed for routing. Any numbers we can keep. Okay. So then if I keep 10.10.0.0, then the subnets what I can use is try to understand 10.10.0.0/24 I'm going to use. So this will give how many IPs? 256. Can you tell me the first IP in this?
10.10.0.1 to 255
0.02.
to 255.
10.10.0.255. Okay.
50.
So this is like subset of this itself. That is the subset of
This
the
VPC.
first one itself. Okay. Then assume we are booking movie tickets. Now how many rows we booked? How many rows we booked in the above, like here in this subnet? I have booked 256 seats. Okay. So that means one row we have. In one row we have 256 seats. What is the next series?
10.10.1.
Yeah, 10.10. So here, is it one is allowed if you use /24? Yes, because till that one also it's reserved, right? That only 0 is like we
Modify.
can, yeah, we can modify that. So this will give the IPs. Can you tell me the IPs?
10 dot to 255.
Yeah. Total number of IPs are 256 we are getting. Next series of IPs are
2 dot.
so like this. Can you tell me the last series of IPs? Like this
10
here
dot
we can have
10 dot 10 dot 255
24.
255 dot
Okay. So now all these are subset of that 10.10.0.0/16 itself.
yes, sir.
All are
Subsets.
subsets itself, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So now a VPC and subnets, why we are splitting also the use cases we'll discuss. And before to going to that, as of now today I'm using /24. Mostly in the tomorrow I'll use /20. 20 is little confusing. So today I'll use 24 I'm using. So tomorrow I'll use /20. Okay. So after that, if want with the 23, 26 also will create, but most of the companies not following that kind of standard. Okay. So then so CIDR is a method of for allocating and routing IP addresses that replaces like subnet mask and classes classifications of IPv4. Okay, so now we have like a flexible kind of allocation of IP addresses. Okay, so then like we can have a prefix of like a length also we have from 0 to 32. Okay, so then the first 16 bits are fixed. Then that provides the combination of total 65,536 IPs. Okay, so mostly now we need to use CIDR itself, and in the AWS, Azure, GCP, anywhere we are using CIDR itself. Okay, so now in AWS and GCP we are using virtual private cloud. In Azure, same thing we are calling as VNet. So what is the concept of virtual private cloud is? So logically, we are going to create a network. Okay. And already we are using VPC itself, because when we create an instance, automatically in the backend, it is creating a VPC itself. Okay. And here we are going to represent like a CIDR blocks we need to specify, and what are the allowed ranges are in AWS by /16 to /28 only. Say 28, how many IPs it gives? 2 to the power of 4 means
16.
16 IPs. In that also 5 have been,
AWS is taking.
the 5 AWS is reserved. Then technically the smallest subnet can host us
11.
11.
Sorry, 2 to the power. Yeah, 11.
11, 16 minus 5. Okay, the biggest we can keep 65,536. I think Azure is supporting /8 also, but that 8 is a bigger number. Okay, so mostly we don't use /8. So now here, this is already we discussed, right? 10.0.0.0/16 provides us 65,536 IPs we are getting. So it depends upon our requirement. We are dividing that into subnets. So why we'll go for our own VPC? Why we'll go for our own subnets also we'll discuss. And here very, very important, whatever the VPC we are creating is for public or private? For the private only. Public
Private.
AWS is providing. Okay. So then definitely INR, whatever the private ranges they have specified, those ranges itself we need to use. Those ranges itself in 10 dot series or 172 series or 192 series only we are going to use. 192 series only we are going to use. Okay. And public anyhow, those are provided by AWS itself. Okay. So even if you choose the private, Elastic IP also, AWS will provide that. So AWS is going to provide for that. And in the IPv6, by default in the AWS also, we are getting IPv6 also. Okay. So we are getting IPv6 addresses also. But by default, we are not getting IPv6. If you want, we can choose. Okay. What is the concept of subnet is like a partition kind of VPC or subset of VPC, we are dividing that into subnets. So we can divide that into subnets. Okay. And mostly the AWS wise, how the scope would be, we'll discuss. So now here, if I go for VPC, scope is region level. Okay. And subnet scope is available zones. So this is at the available zone level we have. Means, say it's mandatory, or maybe for the high availability, it's recommended to go for how many number of zones? It's recommended to go for how many number of zones?
2 to 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3, right? Then definitely if we want to use, then we need to go for 2 subnets minimum we need to keep, because one subnet is at one zone, it can't spread to another zone. Okay, that means the scope is only within the zone itself. If we want to use 2 zones, then how many subnets we are going to keep? Minimum
2.
2 subnets. If I want to use 3 subnets, if I want to use the 3 subnets, then definitely I need to go for 3. I need to use 3. I need to use. And the next one is, say suppose if I go for the like subnet types, we have public subnet and we have the private subnets. Whenever I want to keep the public subnet, means those resources inside the subnet are accessible over the internet, and internet is coming for those servers also. But if I go for the private subnet, those are only within the VPC, those are accessible, not possible to access from internet. Now, I have my requirement is, I want to keep in 2 available zones and 1 public and 1 private in each available zone. Then can you tell me how many minimum subnets we required? How many minimum subnets we required?
2 subnets.
No.
2 public and 1 private means 3 into
Yeah.
2,
So now
6.
here in 2 agents, right? Then minimum I'll go for 4, because 1 agent will contain 1 public and 1 private. Okay. Another agent also will contain 1 public and 1 private. So total I'm going to use 4 number of subnets. If the same thing I want both public and private in the 3 zones, then minimum I need to go for 6 subnets I'm going to choose. 6 subnets, because in each subnet I want to keep public kind of thing and private 3 I want to keep. So these all our decisions. Okay, so we may keep even 5 also, public maybe 3, private maybe 2 also. These all our decisions, not our maybe architect decisions, we can tell. According to the architect plan, we need to provision.
Srikanth, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So you are telling about private subnet now. So the resources within the subnet can communicate within the VPC or within the subnet?
VPC. Within the VPC, any IP can connect with any IP.
Oh, that means in public subnet means there we get the concept of NAT.
Yes. No. In the that we'll discuss. Okay. So now try to understand. If I keep one EC2 instance, okay. If I keep one EC2 instance in public subnet, okay, that subnet is getting internet, okay, and public connection also. What is the meaning of public connection is whatever the instances we have created, we connected over the internet or not. So we connected over the internet, right? Otherwise, the North Virginia instance, how we can connect from Hyderabad? Okay, so that means whatever the EC2 instances by default we have created, all those are we are created through. By default, we are getting public subnet only. Okay, so what public subnet will provide is, it will provide the public access to that instance. And second, what it is providing? What it is providing? It is providing internet also. Okay, so then an instance is getting internet is an inbound rule or outbound rule? Instance is getting an internet is an inbound rule or outbound rule?
Inbound, sir.
No, it's an outbound. Because from the server to outside, it is accessing the website, right?
Like region to region.
Internet is not within the region, right? It's a global. Okay, so we connected to an instance. Instance accessing internet is not inbound. It's an outbound to that. Inbound is I'm connecting to that instance over SSH or RDP is inbound. Okay, so internet accessing from that instance is an outbound, and the public connection over internet is
Outbound.
it's an inbound rule. That is the reason if I want to connect to that instance in the inbound rule, I'm opening either 22 or 3389 depends upon the operating system. Okay, and by default outbound traffic is allowed all traffic. Okay, so what is that meaning of outbound traffic is all the traffic is allowed by default, but in the inbound maybe entry and exit assume. Okay, if I'm connecting to an instance means in that instance it need to open inbound rule, but that internet is accessing, that instance is accessing internet means from the system to outside world it is communicating. That's not inbound, it's an outbound rule. And by default, what is going to happen with the outbound rule? All traffic is allowed. In the outbound, all traffic is allowed. If you want to restrict, we can restrict that also. And if I have a private subnet, okay, say within the VPC, any IP can communicate with any of the IP. Means within the like a VPC, not only subnet also. Okay, that means even a public subnet instance and private subnet instance also can communicate with each other if it is within the VPC. Okay, so within the VPC, an IP can communicate, then we can't connect from internet to which subnet? Over the internet, we can't connect to which subnet?
Private subnet.
To the private subnet. We can't connect over the internet. Okay, then okay, that instance, can you guess whether it will give the internet it will get or not? To the instance also, internet won't come. Yeah. So if you have any doubts regarding these two statements, please ask. If you have any doubts regarding that, please ask me. If it is a public subnet, it is getting both. What it is getting? It is getting public access, plus it is getting internet also. If it is a private subnet, it won't get public access and it won't get
Traffic also.
internet also, it won't get. Public access also it won't get, and the internet also we don't get.
Shrikant, but we can, by using the internet gateways, we can
No.
connect to the.
To make the public subnet, we are attaching internet gateway. Okay, if we want to make the subnet public, we need to attach internet gateway.
Okay.
Okay, so that means here by default, all custom subnets are private. To make it public, we are attaching internet gateway. By attaching an internet gateway, what's happening?
We can make all the custom subnets
Yeah,
to
custom
access the
subnet.
internet.
Okay, but by default, every region we are getting one default VPC. By default, we are getting every region, we are getting one
VPC.
default VPC. Every available zone, we are getting subnet also. That means in North Virginia, any idea how many zones are there?
3 zones.
No, North Virginia. North Virginia is the biggest one. They have 6 zones. Okay, then can you guess how many subnets would be there?
6 subjects.
6. Okay, in Mumbai, how many zones we have? In
2.
Mumbai, 3 we have. Okay, then how many subnets will get by default?
3 subnets.
3 subnets. Okay, say in default, okay, by default, all subnets are, can you guess those subnets are public or private?
It's public.
It's public.
Private.
No. In the custom VPC, subnets are private. But in the default VPC, what AWS is giving for us is
It's public.
That is the reason, like we are able to
We are
connect to that instances. But in the custom VPC, what's happening? If I create a VPC and if I create the subnets, those subnets are public or private?
It's a private.
It's a private. In order to make it public, what we need to do?
So we have to attach the
internet gateway. So suppose assume in your home, you want the internet means you'll go to Hathway or maybe Act or maybe Airtel. They'll come to home and they will attach a router, all those, right?
Yes, sir.
Those are physically is happening, but in AWS, everything will do virtually. So internet gateway is a device kind of thing that is making our subnets public. In the default subnets, in default VPC, by default itself, we are getting internet gateway. But in the custom VPC, we need to choose it. Okay, so any doubts on that? It's all a little confusing kind of thing. But once we create those VPCs and if we go through those videos also, we'll understand that. Okay, say I shared those videos, right? Like in another way, I'm explaining. But if you go through those videos also, you'll understand in a better way. Okay. So now here, straightforward. What is going to happen in default? What is going to happen? I'll explain. We created an account. In the default, what happening is every region. Okay, every region AWS provides a one VPC. Means if I have 30 regions, how many VPCs have been given by AWS? 30. And in each region, every zone will get one subnet by default. Okay, and whether the subnet is public or private. In the default
Public.
VPC, whatever the
Public.
subnets they are getting are public. So try
Public.
to remember one thing. By default, you are able to connect all these days to those instances, right? If it is a private, we can't
Correct.
connect to those missions. It's a straightforward, right? Okay. So can you guess me how many subnets will get by default? How many subnets we are getting by default?
3, sir.
No, that's not 3. That depends on
The region.
number of zones in that region.
Jones. Yeah. Yeah.
Say if some regions, Oregon like that, we have four also. In North Virginia, we have 6 zones. Okay, and those subnets are public or private?
Public.
Public. Then in custom VPC, okay, say we need to create subnets, and by default those are private. By default those are private. By attaching internet gateway, those subnet will become public. Okay. So what is the meaning of public is how I can make a subnet public? How I can make
By attaching the internet gateway.
by attaching the internet gateway. If I don't attach the internet gateway in the custom VPCs, what's happening?
It will be restricted.
It would be private. It would be private. Any doubts on this? Okay, so then in custom VPC, okay, subnets are private. Okay, so then if I keep an instance, it won't get public access and it won't get internet also. To that instance, we don't get the internet also. Okay, so then what we are getting? Okay, within the VPC, they can communicate with each other. Now, try to understand. I have one EC2 instance in public, then one EC2 instance in private. They can communicate each other or not? So, within the VPC, by default, they can communicate. By default, they can communicate also. So within the VPC, by default, they can communicate. Yeah, any doubts on this? Then try to understand. In one VPC, I have one EC2 instance. In another VPC, I have one more EC2 instance. Okay, then is it possible to communicate? Within the VPC, they can communicate, but if both are in the two different VPCs, they can't communicate. If both are in the two different VPCs, they can't communicate. Okay, so for this, what we required is VPC peering is required. But within the VPC, we no need to do anything. By default, they can communicate. By default, they can communicate. Yeah, any doubts on this? Any doubts on this? So what is the concept of VPC peering is, if you have two different VPCs and over the private they want to communicate, then we required peering. But by default within the VPC, we no need to do anything. They're communicating by each other. They're communicating by each other. Then here one small point is there. I'll explain that. Now I have my private subnet. Private subnet won't get public access and internet also won't come. Now, which type of servers will keep in the mostly in the private subnet is so which type of servers I'm going to keep in the private subnet is mostly will keep databases, or if you have any Active Directory kind of things, or file servers. So these all the important data we have. Okay, so these kind of servers I'm going to keep in my private subnet. Then assume I have a database. This weekend, I want to do some patching. So what is the nothing but a patching? I'll tell general example. Say suppose if you connect to Wi-Fi and if any of the updates are pending, it shows us, right, what it shows. Like maybe updates are pending, you need to update those. So in the same way, to the databases or maybe my file shares, Active Directory servers, I want patching. If I want to do the patching, what I want? I want internet, but by default, those subnets won't get the, by default, those subnets won't get the internet. Then what we need to do is, okay, so we need to attach NAT devices. In the NAT devices, we have two types of devices. One is NAT gateway and the second one is NAT instance. Okay, so first one is NAT gateway and NAT instance. Can you tell me what is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of that?
Translate private IP to public IP.
No. For the private subnet resources, we want internet. What is the problem with the internet gateway? What is the problem with the internet gateway? What is the problem with the internet gateway is, internet gateway is very risky for these kind of servers because it is giving the public access also. What we want, what we don't want. We want internet, but what we don't want,
Public access.
we don't want public access. Then the best solution is,
Devices.
NAT gateway or NAT instance. NAT gateway or NAT instance. Okay. So we'll discuss all this. Okay. So today again spend more on the CIDR blocks itself. Okay. So we'll create the different VPCs and subnets in the tomorrow session. And I shared the 3 videos, right? Those also you need to finish by tomorrow. Okay. And all these days, what we done is we created the instance in the default VPC, but now, like from tomorrow onwards, we need to keep the control and don't use the default VPC for the next sessions. Always use the custom VPC itself. Okay. So always use the custom VPC. We need to use it. Okay. So try to finish all those videos. And try to come with what is inbound rule, outbound rule, public access, internet, all are confusing with that. Try to keep a clarity in that. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me tomorrow. Okay.